So what do you think's up with the extraterrestrial imagery that features so heavily in some strands of psychedelic experience?
You mean the cat-eyed, that kind of imagery? The cat-eyed alien gray, pudgy little...
That and just the sense of, I think it seems like a lot of people just even describe the sense of an extraterrestrial intelligence or...
Well, remember we were talking last night about how everything wants to articulate itself. Everything wants somehow to communicate and be perceived as language. When that impulse is most clearly separated from its object, or from its source, I guess you'd say, then maybe that's what you get, is this Gumby-like pure impulse toward communication or something like that. I mean, it seems to me it's like looking at a pure function, a pure psychological function of some sort. You see what I mean?
No longer rooted in
its source.
Source being biology and the evolution of physical form on this particular planet.
Yeah.
And so that once it reaches a certain kind of...
It can actually walk away from itself. And then there you have it. And you're saying, what is this? It's category confounding. It can't be. It's an essence without an object, or something like that. And,
yeah, I've had some pretty profound moments of feeling like contact with something like extraterrestrial intelligence without believing it, even often in the interior of the trip, that it was...
Oh, you mean while loaded?
Yeah, even at the time going, okay, this is...
I'll let phenomena. This happen.
Yeah, this is a phenomena occurring, rather than, I'm finally seeing it, and or maybe you just sort of geared for it with science fiction. You're like, okay. Right.
So how real was it?
Well, maybe it's just the language that I use for other. That if you present me with some kind of intelligence or communicating force that seems to be other, that's very high, very evolved, that maybe I'm just going to tend to see it more as alien. But even in terms of those buzzes, like the kind of weird way that sounds can like form these vibrating matrices, is they often take on a kind of more metallic quality and become more synthetic, and with that rising begin to enter into an imagery realm that's very
peculiarly alien.
It is peculiarly alien and technological often, as opposed to natural.
That's the place.
And that's that's like a lens or something of... because if you imagine, if you imagine it pouring forward or moving rapidly forward, there's a kind of front edge that's very weird, because it's sort of like birthing a whole sets of new...
Foam.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I know that place.
What is the nature of the entities? What constitutes their apparent agency or communicative agency?
Well, I think that's the question that remains unanswered. That's the grail of the thing. What is the nature of the other is basically what you're asking. Is it a construct, a projection, or a discovery? It's not clear to me what it is.
Do you feel like you've gotten any closer to that?
It's probably a discovery, which is the most radical conclusion. I think that's probably what you think, too, based on your description of your DMT trip and all that ultimately it is irreducible. It is too weird to tell. I don't know whether it was a C.M. Kornbluth story, but it was all about these aliens come by and contact the United Nations and all this, but somehow this book, To Serve Man, comes to the surface, and then it's slowly realized that it's a cookbook. And this really spoils the party.
What about the communications that come in from either the extraterrestrial, quote unquote, or seeming, or the technological world?
Well, obviously it requires discrimination to figure out. You can't believe everything you hear. The demons are of many kinds. Some are made of ions, some of mind. The ones of DMT you'll find stutter often and are blind. Just because something can talk doesn't mean it isn't selling you something you may not want to have.
Right. Now that time in that phrase, you said the ones on DMT can be, but I've also heard you say ketamine there. The ones on ketamine.
Have I said that about ketamine?
Yeah.
Oh, we need to control me a little more tightly.
What is your opinion on ketamine?
I think it's an intrauterine memory drug. I think there are things about it that cause you to recapture some kind of intrauterine state. It's echoic. It's weightless. It cancels the sense of gravity, so you don't feel your lungs rising and falling. It's... I sort of agree with you. I see its fascination. I would not want to become embroiled in its tentacles, because it seems to me a little too easy, a little too fascinating.
Do you think ketamine is hollower, partly because it's just a synthetic, that it hasn't emerged in the ancient matrix of the biosphere?
No, I think one of the interesting unanswered questions is, why do these chemicals have the characters that they do? Why do they have these personalities? Why is there Mayan imagery inside mushrooms and mescaline and this and that? And so ketamine's character is simply somehow conferred from whatever strange dimension this is that sends these drugs their personalities. And it certainly is an interesting personality. And Lily is, John is a juggernaut. Do you know him?
No.
Oh my God. John's such a trip. I mean, some people are just...
he's really kind of out.
Oh, definitely.
Like, you meet him and you're like, this guy's out.
Yeah, this guy is... There's nobody home. This guy cannot be left alone at home. And he's like me. What a trip. And such, an amazing arrogance, an amazing conviction of your own, that you've got it all figured out. Yeah, a relentless character. He told me once, we were at Esalen, I don't know what we were doing, just the two of us standing somewhere, and he said, "Nature loves you ruthlessly." And I thought, well, that's an interesting observation. What does ruthlessly actually mean?
Was he speaking specifically about you?
Yeah, he and I were the only two people present. It was just a private conversation. He used to have this Obi-Wan Kenobi robe that he wore around Esalen that was just hilarious. And he would just show up out of the fog, to lay these raps on you. Yeah, they didn't make too many of John.